Hi friends, Dave Paulides, Canadian Missing Project. This is executive producer of the show, Huck. Had a very lazy day today. It's raining outside. She's not too happy when it rains. She loves it when it snows, doesn't like the rain. Went outside, came in, kind of been hanging, bored. Dad hasn't been really interesting today, I guess, but she will be with us today. Hey, Huck. Hey, what do you find so interesting in the floor? Hey. You okay? Huh? Yeah, you're a good girl. Yeah, you're a good girl. Yeah, you're a good girl. Yeah, you're a good pup. You're a good pup. You're a good girl. Yes, you are. And they love you too. Yes, they do. You're friends. Yeah, they're watching you. Okay. All right, so let's get going. I wanted to tell you about a couple of events I'll be at this year. Bozeman, Montana, Neocon, Neocon. Bozeman, if you haven't been there, beautiful town, college town. Has a bunch of great restaurants, some huge rivers right nearby. Absolutely spectacular. And I'll be in Utah for Phenomicon, Phenomicon. Yes, it is a phenomenal conference. And it's going to have everybody from Skinwalker Ranch there. And then I'll be there, Mariah will be there. And it'll be there'll be a lot of people there. You want to get your reservations pretty quick because it will sell out. Restaurants will sell out, hotels will sell out. There was a huge crowd there last year, and really one of the best things about that whole conference, the last day of the conference, Saturday, they have Travis Taylor from Skinwalker Ranch. He has a band, and the band plays for 2 hours. Everyone's dancing, having fun. It'll blow your mind how good they are. I'm not kidding, it will blow your mind. And Travis, he's the lead singer. That will blow your mind. I just sat there and stared. I couldn't believe what I was watching. I'm definitely going to be there again. It's worth just going just for that. So, the case we're talking about today is one I've talked about before. I brought this name up probably many times in the last 5 years. And there's so many issues about this disappearance that strike a chord on the missing 411 that you will see. A lot of things have come out in the last couple of years, and I haven't talked about it for at least 2 or 3 years. So the young man's name was Dan Zamlen. Dan was 18 years old. He went missing April 5th, 2009. I call this a cornerstone case. It's in Missing 411, a sobering coincidence. He was raised in a small town of Eveleth, Minnesota, 50 miles north of Duluth and about 30 miles west of Lake Superior. And his town's famous attraction is the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame is there. It's also a cluster zone of missing people around the city. Daniel Frank Rakovitz Zamlen was born April 8th, 1990, to Sally and Dale Zamlen. Remember when I told you before about missing 411 young men? How many of them fit this specific profile? Listen intently. So, he was a religious member of the Resurrection Catholic Church. He was an altar server and a catechism teacher. Highly religious. When he was young, he was always driven. He became an Eagle Scout, and he became a highly accomplished pianist. He also was a 3-letter high school athlete, track, cross country, and Nordic skiing. And what I found interesting about that is those are all highly aerobic sports. He was a National Honor Society member, kept a super high GPA. He played in a band and an orchestra in high school. And he traveled to Mississippi with Habitat for Humanity. And he also rebuilt New Orleans after their hurricanes. Stop right there. What else could he have done in high school? I mean, really. Honestly, you talk about a young man that's driven. Well, what's one thing that is in the missing 411 profile that I haven't talked about? Some kind of disability or illness or chronic disease or... Yeah, he had that. He was a type 1 diabetic. It's severe. And he also had an insulin pump. Well, in 2008, Dan graduated from Virginia High School with enough advanced credits to start his first year in college as a sophomore. I graduated with some super smart kids in my school. I didn't know anybody that could do that. See what I'm saying about him? Well, he enrolled at the University of St. Thomas in St. Paul, Minnesota. It was a Catholic liberal arts school that was private. It was located 4 blocks from the Mississippi River and 1 mile south of the University of Minnesota. Dan received 6 different scholarships to go to that school. Wow. Just wow. Now, when somebody's an achiever like this, it doesn't stop when they go in college. Those are just all the common practices and habits that he has that are going to lead him into success later in life and all through school. He's not going to get detracted. And part of that persona came from giving of himself by volunteering. Not only in the church, but Habitat for Humanity and building homes for people in hurricanes. Well, April 4th, 2009, Dan and a group of his friends attended a party on St. Clair Avenue in St. Paul. The party was about 6 blocks south of the south end of campus and about 6 blocks from the Mississippi River. Party was going good. They were serving beer inside, charging like $5 a cup. Now stop right there. I don't know how many parties I went to in college, but I don't think I was ever at a party that didn't have alcohol. At the minimum. At the minimum. Most parties I went to, there was always weed, there was always alcohol. Now, again, I went to Berkeley. No, I never tried weed. No one will believe that when I was at Berkeley. Oh yeah, sure, Dave, sure. I think I told people this before, but when I applied for the police department, I'd take a polygraph test. And the guy brings me in. He says, Dave, I understand you went to Berkeley. Oh yeah. He says, okay, the recruiting staff love you. They want to hire you. One thing you can't do in here is you can't lie. If you smoked a little weed, it's no big deal. They're going to hire you anyhow. So just be completely honest. So he starts the test, who you are, where you're from, blah, blah, blah. Then he goes, hey, when was the last time you smoked weed? He says, I'm on the polygraph. I go, I've never smoked weed. He hits the machine and shuts it off. He goes, hey, I'm not even going to look at the results. Remember what I told you about being serious? These guys loved you. They're going to hire you. Just admit to whatever you've done. If you haven't done it in the last year, you're all clean, no problem. Okay? I said, yeah. Starts the machine again. Dave, when was the last time you smoked weed? I've never smoked weed. Turns it off again. He goes, gosh darn it. I'm only going to give you one more chance, Dave. You got to tell the truth. I go, I am telling the truth. Okay. One more time. So I say it. He just throws his pencil down. He keeps going with the test. And when was the last time you did weed? I said, no, I've never done it. When was the last time you did coke? Never did it. When was the last time you did mushrooms? Never did it. When was the last time you did speed? Never did it. So we go through the test. Test like maybe 45 minutes. He turns the machine off. He's looking at it. He's looking at it. And he goes, you know what, Dave? I've been doing this for 26 years. I've probably polygraphed 500 people that came out of Berkeley. And you're one in 500. I go, uh-oh, what did I do? And he goes, no, you're the first guy that ever came out of that school that didn't smoke weed. I go, well. He goes, well, congratulations, you're probably going to get hired. I go, oh, thank you. Walked out of the room. A couple days later, I was hired. So anyhow, that's my story about smoking weed in Berkeley. Getting back to Zamlen. So he's at this party. Everybody's having a good time. They're selling beer, big deal. About 2 a.m., some people noticed that Dan's not at the party. He left. He was mad about something, but people never knew what or exactly why. At about 2:35, a friend of his named Anna calls him on the phone and says, Dan, where are you going? She said, come on back, let's just go back to my place. It's unclear what happened. But the call, according to Anna, took a bad turn. So Anna and her friends that she went to the party with get in her car, and Dan said he was walking on Mississippi Boulevard, which parallels the Mississippi River. And she gets him on the phone again. And she tells him, hey, I'm right there, real close. Look for my headlights. Anna said that the last thing Dan said, quote, oh my gosh, Anna, where are you? Help. Oh my gosh, Anna, where are you? Help. Oh my gosh, Anna, where are you? Help. A 5-second statement. Anna said that Dan's voice grew distant as he said the last few words, as though he was being separated from the phone. And then the phone cut off. So she was right on that boulevard, so she's driving up and down looking for Dan. Can't find him. Other friends that she calls to help look can't find him. They all call his cell phone, and it goes straight to voicemail. Later that morning, Dan's reported missing. Friends, that statement he made is urgently important. Why is that? He made that statement over a 5-second span of time. To me, it's as though he's watching or looking at something that he knows is going to be bad, but he also knows that he probably can't get away from it because he's not running. 5 seconds, meaning he wasn't falling into something. He didn't fall over a cliff. He didn't fall into the water. 5 seconds. Keep that in mind. So everyone goes back to the campus the next day. They're all looking for him. They're thinking maybe he walked back to his room on his own. The next morning they check on him, and he gets reported missing. Everyone knew what kind of person Dan Zamlen was. Wasn't a troublemaker, wasn't a fighter, wasn't him. Well, the college community around the University of St. Thomas rallied and searched for Dan. The St. Paul police got involved because they're the ones that were involved in the initial report, and they sent multiple bloodhound teams out into that area trying to pick up a scent where he might be. It wasn't one bloodhound team, multiple. There's a key. Several months after the disappearance, Dan's dad testified in front of the Minnesota House of Representatives explaining what happened to his son and the searches on April 7th and 8th when the police came out with their dogs. He said at the hearings, this is super important, the bloodhounds never followed any scent that went near the river. Did you hear that? The bloodhounds never went and followed any scent that was near the river of his son. Well, Dave, why is that important? Hold your taters. Because Dan said he was on Mississippi Boulevard, so this is the University of St. Thomas. The party was up in this area. This is the Mississippi River. This is Mississippi Boulevard that kind of follows the river. I'll get down to this stuff in a second. Well, because he said he was on Mississippi Boulevard, they're thinking, well, maybe he fell in the river, maybe he got pushed in the river, maybe he broke a leg and fell in the river, maybe he got hit by a car and pushed into the river. They didn't know. So they put some boats in the river with side scan sonar for 4 days. Side scan sonar lights up that river like you're looking through perfectly clear water and can see anything anywhere down there. Anything floating or on the bottom will show up perfectly. I've seen it work. I've seen it work multiple times. Well, there was also many other people that were searching the campus, searching the neighborhoods where Dan disappeared. They were all over this for 4 days. Now here's something I could just punch somebody for. St. Paul police and Dan's parents contacted Dan's cell phone company and tried to get the data from the phone about where the phone was last pinged at. His parents paid the bill. It was in their name. The cell phone company would not supply the location data. As a parent, I would be going ballistic. We need some kind of federal law about this. When a municipality like the St. Paul police put search teams out looking for somebody, that's when the bar ought to drop. No more sense of privacy. Now, if the police think you're missing, that's good enough. They have to give up the cell phone data. I think that's the way it should be. Especially if the parents are paying the bill. Sorry, yeah, Dan's an adult, but there's an urgent cause here. I think we need some legislation on this. So Dan had implied to his friends that he was walking on Mississippi Boulevard paralleling the river. Hundreds of searchers either got into boats, searched the banks of the river, schools, people on bicycles, people walking in pairs. It went on. Now here's a real problem I have. After 4 days of searching, St. Paul police cut off the search. What? What? 4 days? The young man's missing, obviously. I think there's suspicious circumstances based on his last statement. And they want to cancel the search? Oh, that's bogus. Well, they do. Now, friends continued to search. They weren't finding anything. Nothing floating in the water. No blood on the street where he was walking like if he was hit by a car. They were thinking of all the scenarios. None of them made a lot of sense. But everybody knew Dan, and they knew he would not be just playing hide and seek right now. 26 days after Dan disappears, May 1st, an employee at the Ford Motor Plant on the Mississippi River is cleaning out the water intakes, and he finds a body floating there. Calls St. Paul police. They pull the body out. The ID on the body belongs to Dan Zamlen. It's turned over to the coroner. Right away, they think they have the body identified. The coroner later makes a positive ID. It was Dan. There was never a mention at the time about what he was or wasn't wearing. And the Ramsey County coroner takes custody of the body for the autopsy. That was on May 1st. Everything about this case, especially starting right here, is suspicious to me. So, if this was a typical drowning, they'd have the results in 3 days. Well, 39 days later, June 8th, the Ramsey County coroner states in a public statement that Dan died by accidental freshwater drowning. We've all heard this before, right? How many times? They would not release any details except that he had no injuries. That's all they would say. That's it. That's all they have to say according to Minnesota law. That is obviously completely bogus. I could go on, but I'm not going to. The police said that they have no idea where Dan entered the river, and they said that may always be a mystery. That is the mystery. They wouldn't say if there were drugs or alcohol in the body, how long he was in the river. They said he had no injuries. They said that they wouldn't say how long he had been deceased. A key point, because I've told you before that especially in New York, when they were researching these river disappearances, that the time that the people were missing, let's say they were missing for 10 days and they're found in the river, their time in the river didn't match the time they were missing. You know, maybe by 1 day or so wouldn't be a huge deal. But if they were missing for 10 days and they were found to be in the river only 5, something's wrong, right? Well, his parents are Dale and Sally. Smart people. Love Dan immensely. And they could see through this. And they said that they didn't believe the coroner did a thorough job. They ordered and they paid for a second autopsy. Depending on where it is, it costs between $2,000 and $5,000. Well, the autopsy came through, and guess what it showed? Dan had GHB in his liver. First autopsy, if it did show that, they would never say it. They didn't say it. Second autopsy said there was no injuries to show he fell down an embankment. GHB in the system, I've talked to you about this before. It can make you comatose. Many times you're awake and you know what's happening to you, but you really can't move. And it gets dissipated in your system so fast, it's hard to find sometimes. Like they found it in his liver. But I just told you something. You kind of know what's happening, but you really can't respond to it. Dan was awake, cognizant, and speaking clearly. Which to me means that GHB entered his system sometime after he talked to Anna. Remember that. And I've made this insinuation before. I've also talked about a case in Missing 411, a sobering coincidence, about a young man named Brandon Swanson, also missing from Minnesota, never found. He was coming home from school. Car broke down in the middle of nowhere in western Minnesota. Called his parents. We're talking on the phone, just like I'm talking right now. No big deal. Blah blah blah. All of a sudden he says, "Oh shit!" Phone goes dead. He's never found. So I always ask. I mean, I can remember myself talking to my parents when I was in college. For me to say, "Oh shit," to them on the phone, that would have to be something monumental, especially if I was on the phone to my mom. So they never found Brandon. And he was in the middle of nowhere. But that's 2 times, 2 college students on the phone made statements that were absolutely baffling. Dan's, "Oh my gosh, Anna, where are you? Help." Oh my gosh, Anna, where are you? 5 to 8 seconds. What would cause Dan to say that? I've thought about that hundreds of times. So twice in cases I've documented, bodies were found near a Ford plant. Fact. There's a Wisconsin case, here's another weird one. A Wisconsin case I investigated where evidence was found on the campus at the school at the base of the Chief Hiawatha statue on campus. So where Dan Zamlen was found, the neighborhood across from the Ford plant is called Hiawatha. Mere coincidence? Am I digging too far? I don't know. Just saying. 2 times near a Ford motor plant, 2 times Hiawatha comes up. I think that's pretty weird. So, Dan's statement. He had time to rationalize what was happening in front of him and get a full statement out. Those last few words was like he was fading away. So, was the phone getting pulled from him? Or was the electricity being drained from the area around him? Something draining energy from the phone? Because after that, everything just went to voicemail. I don't know. Now, the state of Minnesota, the way their laws are written, the county and the states and the cities that do autopsies have a right to withhold autopsy results from the public. That is the biggest bunch of crap law I have ever heard. Here's why. What possible good can come out of that law except secrecy? Really? So, your tax dollars pay for the autopsy, they pay for the coroner, they pay for the report, and they're saying you're too stupid, you can't read it. What is that? Everything about that report belongs to us. Now, I'm going to go down this list. Bow down. And I want you to really pay close attention. He's an athlete. Remember I said one of the criteria of these sobering coincidences, you're an athlete. He's also a pianist. An outstanding one who plays in the orchestra and the band at school. He got 6 scholarships to go to his university. He's highly religious. He became an Eagle Scout, type 1 diabetic. He's found in the river that had been searched for 4 days. He has GHB in his system. It's a freshwater drowning. He's found in water. And you have point of separation. When he left that party, within 30 minutes, he left at about 2:35, and I got him on the phone. In that 35 minutes, something horribly happened. They said there was no injuries on the body, but they would never say what clothing he was found wearing or wasn't wearing, what shoes he was or wasn't wearing. He was obviously wearing something because his ID was on him. You'll never convince me that this GHB issue isn't huge. Now, he was at a party with all friends from college. It's not like he was at a public bar where there were miscreants that may want to rob you. No, these were all college students that he was with. And Anna had talked to him right before he disappeared. And he was coherent. Everything was fine. That's why I think this is a real key case. The GHB had to have been administered after he disappeared. Real key. So that's the Dan Zamlen case out of Minnesota. I appreciate you being here, and one of these days we're gonna together figure all this out. And I really think that these water cases are going to be the stepping stone to understanding. If you can, share this on your social media, please. And be kind. Kindness is the key to life. It'll come back 2 or 3-fold if you're kind to people. It's the way karma is, right? Huck just came over and sat at my feet and said, "Dad, you did fine. Time to get going and go play." She's sitting right below me, right below the camera. Let's see if I can get a shot at her. There she is. Hey, Huck. You ready to go? Ready to go? Okay, you guys. Have fun. Be safe. Paulides out.